Hi all, this is Maria and welcome to my studio. This project is pendant number 10 in our pendant series. This will be the last one, unless I decide to do another series at a later date, but I've really had so much fun doing this one. It's been just a blast. So here's the Dreamcatcher pendant. Let's get started. For the tools and materials, we're going to be using one of these 2-inch round blanks. I've got my Drill Master drill, some jewelry pliers that we'll be using because we'll be making some dangles and the Dreamcatcher, my regular dotting tools, and then I'm adding a set of these screwdrivers. These are magnetic ones, about 6 inches long, and then a variety of jewelry making components, some chain, these beads, variety of jump rings, etc. And we'll have all of those listed below in the Show More box, the description box, so you can take a look at those. For paint, I'll be using the DecoArt AMERICANA acrylics in Sea Breeze, Coral, and White. And then, of course, I'll be using the DuraClear Satin Varnish and the AMERICANA DECOR chalk paint in Carbon. So I've got my wood blank here, and in this pendant I'm actually going to have 3 holes that additional holes, because there's already one that comes in the pendant. 3 additional holes for the actual feathers and the chain. Now, you don't have to do this if you don't want to do this part. You certainly don't. I've used one of my 5.75 stencils to mark this, so I know exactly where to place my holes. I tend to drill my holes and then paint because I want the inside of that hole to be painted as well, but you could do it either way. So I painted it, and now I'm using the stencil and my chalk pencil to go back in and line it up and mark it so I know where the center is, and then I have really great grids, lines here to let me know where I want the other elements of this design to go. And I just line it up with the center and then line it up with the 3 holes as close as I can to the holes that I made, and get my pendant blank marked. Pretty straightforward process. So let's go ahead and get that all marked, make sure we got everything down. And here we go. So you can see that I've got my hole at the top for the main pendant and then 3 at the bottom. And I'm going to use my pencil and just place an arc. This is a guideline for me, so I'll place an arc, and this is going to be the edge of the Dreamcatcher. Whoops, a little boo-boo there. So I will just erase that and clean that up a little bit so I can start over. Just going to use a pencil eraser. Try to get that mark out. You could use a Q-tip and just keep going. So I'm actually got 8 segments to this, and you can see my little arches there, little scallop edge. And there we go. Okay, and now I'm ready to start painting. Now, before I get into it too much, I want to just show you these screwdrivers. So this is a set of 4. I'll have these linked, and I'm using ovals. I'm making some seeds, sort of seed shape, oval type shapes, and I'm using these screwdriver heads to help me with that. Now I found a set, because a regular screwdriver I found too long for me with the handle. So these are the magnetic type that just insert into a handle, and I'm just using them without the handle. So I'm thinking they're making a pretty nice dot, so I'm just doing a little bit of practicing here with this tool to see what I like and what it'll do. Trying to walk the dots a little bit and see how those work. There's 4 of them in this set. I have some other sets that I'll demo over time that are those really small ones that you use to use on computers or jewelry making, that type of thing. So these come in 4 sizes. Just kind of testing them out and seeing how they perform. I'm trying to show you the number here, but it's kind of hard to see with the lights. And it takes a little bit of practice to get your dots, and I have to clean the tool just like I do with my regular dotting tools, clean it up a little bit, but I like adding the additional shapes. and just getting adding a little extra variety to the pattern. I think they're marked 6, 5, 4, and 3. And I'll put a link below so you can see which ones I'm using exactly. But kind of check around. You may have some tools that you can use and get a similar effect. Now I wanted to see what it was going to look like if I just did, use these to kind of walk the dots around and see what kind of design this might look like. I really like that. I like the little bit of the elongated oval type dot. So I think these are something that I'll use, and I think they're a nice little addition to my jewelry making or my dot painting set. So I'll just do one more sample here to see how that looks. And you can get a pretty good variety of effects here. So just giving you a little quick demo of how this tool is going to work as I use it in this particular project. All right, now let's get started on the dream catcher. So I'm actually going to do the outside boundary first. And that, for me, I don't know, we each have our own way of doing that. For me, it's helpful for me to know what the outside boundaries are in some of these designs, just so I know how much room I have in the middle and how much far out I can go. Because I do want things to line up in a specific way. So I'm using one of my nail dotters to form these arches. And these are just the edge of the dream catcher. You know how a dream catcher kind of looks with that little scalloped edge. So I've gone ahead and I have started one side. And then I'll redot in the center and follow that arch around the other side. And I will do that for each of the 8 segments. See how the stencil really helped me line that up, so I know what the top is and I know what the center is of those arches, and so I'm able to just kind of carry it around. And that's really nice, and I'm speeding this up now as we go through this repetitive portion of the dotting. And it's forming that really nice scallop there. Okay, I'm going to do one more round of that scallop to fill it out a little bit more. Same tool. This is kind of one on the smaller end of my nail dotting set. I wish these were more reliably marked so I could tell you which millimeter. But these sets are all so different. And we'll finish up the last one here. Now I'm going in with my J10 6.5 or 6.0 millimeter and putting a dot right in the center. And for this first dot, I'm using the Sea Breeze. It's kind of a greenish aqua type color, maybe green turquoise color. It's very, very pretty. You could use any colors that you wanted. I wanted to keep it simple. I'm trying out a new set of tools and a design, so I thought I would keep the color simple. And then I'm going in between my main marks here to place a row of dots here, just using one of my smallest nail dotters. And you'll see that I'm going to start to line up with these scallops that I've got on the edge. And now I'm going to pick up the color Coral, and I'm going to start to use the screwdriver set that I have. And I'm just kind of seeing where I want to line these up. And here we go. Isn't that pretty, the way that little seed looks? That's so cute. I love the introduction of a new shape. And it's small, so it's a really kind of delicate, dainty shape. And it kind of looks to me, I don't know if you've ever seen the Native American jewelry. It looks like that to me with these colors, you know, with a turquoise and a coral color. Really love that. Now I'm using the same tool, and I'm going in now with the Sea Breeze again. And I've lifted that, I'm dotting up a little bit higher because I'm actually going to walk the dots around these, and so I'm lining it up with, it's about a 1-inch circle there. And I'm trying to orient my tool, the screwdriver head, so that it lines up with the center dots there. Okay, and that's how that's looking. Now I'm using a small nail dotter, and I'm just going to walk the dots around with the coral. I think that's pretty when you walk the dots around that seed shape, that little oval shape. That's a really pretty look. This would be great in so many different colors. I can see kind of a rainbow color or even brighter turquoise and red color would be really nice. Any colors that you might like to use. Does look like a concho, doesn't it? Little concho, Mexican concho. I love that look. Kind of back to my Southwest roots. Okay, last one around. Now we're just going to dot one little dot above just to pull the design out a little bit. A little closer to the scalloped edge. And now I'm going to use the Sea Breeze and a kind of mid-sized tool to put some spikes out, and see how I deliberately lined those seed dots so that the spike here would hit in the center dip of those scallops, that scalloped edge. And that's how it's looking so far. Now it's just a matter of deciding what else we want. I think I'm going to put a dot in the center edge of each one of these scallop sections. And this is where your kind of design sense just takes in. I'm going to keep it a little bit simple. You could carry some color, more color out here and extend that dot. Maybe use the coral. But I'm going to keep it a little bit simple and just see how this turns out. So I'll drop a little bit of that Sea Breeze in the center of each one of these scalloped edges, the outside edge. Here we go. And now I want to show you that I just did some little bit of top dotting here. So this is where, you know, your own design sensibilities come in, and you add whatever additional top dotting you want, or add a new color, or even additional dots if you wanted to pull that design out a little bit more. But I decided to keep it relatively simple. You can see that I've added a center top dot, and then on the next edge out from the center, a little bit of smaller coral dots. And then on each one of the ovals, some alternating colors, just to spice it up a little bit and add a little bit more interest. You could also just stop here. Now I want to make a dream catcher. So I'm going to add some additional jewelry components. I'm going to show you how to make some little dangles and add the chain. But you could very much just stop here. You could have not drilled the holes right and just finish the pendant up this way, and it would be really, really pretty. Just add a jump ring to the top and a chain or some kind of necklace, and you would be perfectly, this would be brilliant. It would be really, really pretty. Okay, so we're going to be using a variety of jewelry making tools. I've got some chain nose pliers, round nose pliers, a cutter, a Sharpie, and then I've got some eye pins. These are just little short eye pins. And then I've got a pin with a ball head on the end of it. You could use lots of different things. I've got a few little beads here too. So let's go take a look at what we've got here, because what we're going to do is make 3 dangles. So I'm going to start with the eye pin, and I want to show you a little trick to keep your loops consistent. Just get a Sharpie and put the loop that you want to match and outline it. And that way, every time you go to make the next loop, you'll just line up your wire in between the marks that you made, and you will have consistently sized loops. So we'll make this dangle, we'll thread the first bead. Now, one thing I want to say about the beads, I tend to choose the beads first and then the paint color. It's easier to do that just given what's available in your community. I find it easier to do that. So here I am lining it up, lining that. I've just snipped off the excess. I've lined it up. I've made a loop, and I'm just breaking the neck there to make this consistent size loop. We'll just straighten that up a little bit, and that's my first piece. These are made of 3 pieces. So here's a little metal flower bead. I'll cut off a little bit of the excess. So I'm leaving about just over, you know, maybe a little more than 1/4 of an inch. Make my loop by lining it up, twist, and then bend. And there are different ways to make loops. This is the way I find the easiest, so go ahead and do that, and then close it up. There's the second piece. And then here's the third piece. Let me know, would you go to the trouble of doing the dangles for the dream catcher and adding the wire or the chain, or would you just stop at the pendant piece? Really could go either way. Now we're going to make that loop. Takes a little practice to do these, but it's well worth it because you get custom pieces of jewelry, and that's the fun part of it. Okay, now it's just a matter of putting these pieces together. So the piece with the ball end is going to go at the bottom. So I'm just going to open that loop, twist, right, to open it like we do a jump ring. Thread that on, close it up. Open it, thread it on. And close it up. And there's our dangle. And I will make 3 of those for this piece. Now, one thing I wanted to show you is that this is a simple dangle, but you could add, first of all, if you wanted to do other colors, look how pretty that would be with those, with that pink and blue, and added another little feather dangle onto the bottom of that. So there's different ways. Now I was able to find these really cool feather beads, little metal beads, and I thought these were pretty easy to find, several different styles actually. So I thought these would be great because the dream catcher usually has feathers on it. So these are really terrific beads to put at the end of either your dangles, or in this case at the end of the chains that were the dangles that we're going to have on this piece. So the components that we're going to use here are a 4-inch length of chain with 2 4mm jump rings on each end. And then I've got 2 1.5-inch lengths of chains with a feather, and then the middle one is 2 inches with a feather. And then I've got this necklace piece that I just made, which is 24 inches. 3 6mm jump rings, and 8mm jump ring. And what I'll do is put those 6mm jump rings in each of the holes at the bottom so that I can attach my dangles. Simple tools here. I've just got, really my chain nose pliers are the ones that I'm going to use to assemble this. So I'll take one of my 6mm jump rings and open it. And you want to just twist it and open it far enough to get it through the hole there and enough clearance. Sorry, I'm a little out of frame here, but I'm just twisting that on. And then I'll put that down because I want to put all 3 of them on. So I'll open the next one. Bring you in just a little bit closer. And I'll thread it on. Just so you know, when I saw my signature on the back, I wanted to just let you know that before I started assembling this, of course, I've signed the back, and then I've also varnished it. I use a Sharpie to sign on the back, and then I varnished it with 3 coats of the DuraClear Satin varnish, just so you know that that was my process before I started assembly. So I've got these little tiny 4mm jump rings on the end of this chain, and the reason I did that is to give it a little extra clearance. Sometimes when you're putting these chains directly on the jump ring, you lose a little bit of space. So I'm finding the center first, just because that's easier for me, and I'm threading it on directly, and then I'm threading, that's on the center bottom, and then I'll put that on the other side to make this little bit of a drape. So I've centered this 4-inch piece and then draped it in the center on the center jump ring, and then the edges on each of the outer jump rings. And it just drapes like that. I haven't closed those jump rings up because I'm still threading my pieces on. So I've got my first piece on the drape, and I'm putting these on in a specific order because I want these to hang a certain way. So I want this next dangle to be in front of that drape. So I'll put it on. I'm not using an additional jump ring. I'm just, the links of this chain are enough to go through to fit over the jump ring, and then I'll put my 1 dangle. And I have those all on, and I'll be able to go ahead and close that up. And just twist that closed. And give it a couple little twists to get it seated. And it's coming together. Now I'm going to do the second piece. This was the 2-inch length of chain with the feather. I'm going to thread that on first. And then the next dangle. And we'll close that up. Now, my chain slipped off, so I will go ahead and re-thread that on. This is the draped chain. Go ahead and thread that on. And then my last, this is the 1.5 inch, another 1.5 inch with a feather. And then the last dangle. And there's, of course, lots of ways you could do the dangles with these. I wanted to get these specific colors in these, and I found those little flower metal beads that I thought were really cute, so I wanted to use those. And that's it for the bottom of the dream catcher. Isn't that pretty? I love that. Now it's simply a matter of finishing the top, and you could do this any way you wanted. I'm going to use an 8mm jump ring at the top. Isn't that pretty? And I am going to use a chain to keep with the chain theme, since I already was using chain, but a leather cord would look nice, a waxed linen, anything that you wanted to use really would look great. So I'm opening that larger jump ring, and I'm going to thread my chain in first because it has a clasp on it already. And so it won't slide through there unless I take the clasp off. So we'll go ahead and close that up. And there's our finished piece. Isn't that great? It really does have a good dreamcatcher look to it. And it would be great with that pink and blue, or any other colors that you wanted to use would be just absolutely fabulous. And again, if you didn't want to go to the jewelry make, maybe you don't have the tools or the experience, or you just don't like it, you don't have to add the dangles at the end. And it's got nice movement. It's a great, great necklace. I love this piece. I hope you enjoy it. So this is the last one. This is Pendant 9 in our series. I hope you've enjoyed this series. Do leave me some feedback if you want to see more jewelry making type dot painting. I'm going to move on for a little bit just because I finished this particular series, and we'll see some other types of painting. I want to thank you so much for joining me in my studio. Please consider subscribing, leaving me a comment, giving me a thumbs up. I really appreciate hearing from you all, and all of you viewers. I love every one of you. Thanks so much for joining me in my studio. Take care.